Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Dr. Andrew Neville. I almost lost track of the time and didn't get started on the hour. Welcome wherever you are in the world. Of course, my team and I are glad you're here. Whether you're new, right, or you've been around this a little bit, we hope you learned something. We hope you have fun during this next hour during the Q&A. Now, if you're like most patients with this, you've probably been dancing around this for a little bit, trying to chase after all the various, what I refer to as red herrings, and tried lots of treatments and things like that. My hope is that I can help to connect the dots a little bit, right, and put some of the pieces of the puzzle together. I want to assure you that it's not your fault you're not getting well. It's not your fault. There are missing pieces of the puzzle, and what everybody needs is accurate, comprehensive information regarding this condition, which is there's so much noise that's out there, unfortunately, both on conventional side and alternative medicine side. So you need accurate information, and most people need a personalized plan and a team that can guide you through it. So if you find yourself kind of nodding along and getting good responses, we're here, and I hope my team, either my programs with me or the program with my coaches, can help you get through it and ultimately help you expedite the process. That's the biggest thing, right? Let's speed up this healing and recovery. Okay, so as you join in, let us know where you're from, right? We've got international programs, got patients all over the country, North America, everywhere, which is lovely. We're always curious about where you're from. So please do put that information in the comments. My legal team has me say this information is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your medical doctor or healthcare provider with any questions you might have regarding to your medical condition. If you're a current patient, great. Welcome. Happy you're here. You're here to learn. This forum is more for people who aren't yet in one of our programs. You guys can ask questions in the programs, right? Whether that's on our group sessions or one-on-ones. So this is for people that are kind of new to this. You can submit a question. I'll see if I can answer it down below. I'll put it on this document that I have. I have tons of submitted questions. By the way, if you are live, submit a question in the comment section and we'll try to get it on this document. I will say I have a ridiculous number of questions here today. We're getting busier and busier with this, and I'm probably not going to get to all of them. I apologize if I miss your question, but we do these periodically. So make sure you get notifications from us, right? Sign up, with our newsletter. In the comments section, my team's going to be placing information about the Facebook group, which is a great resource, Healing Adrenal Fatigue Holistically. Our new Instagram channel, the Adrenal Hub, where my coaches are posting stuff pretty regularly, which is a great space. The YouTube channel links to the complimentary call that we offer from my patient coordinators with. To have a conversation with somebody, no strings attached. It's no pressure that way as well, just to try to see if we can get some help. Okay, so we're going to jump into those questions. Again, there's a lot. I'm going to do everything I can to connect the dots. My YouTube channel is a great place to get some resources as well. But here we go. I apologize for the speed with which I will speak today. I know if you are suffering from adrenal fatigue or chronic fatigue or one of the other crazy diagnoses or assessments, the brain's not working quite as efficiently as it should. And I may talk a little fast, but this will be recorded and you can always go back to that recording. Okay. All right. Iva, sorry. What's the difference between CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, and adrenal fatigue and their treatment? Okay. So adrenal fatigue is one of the most common causes of what people will call chronic fatigue syndrome, myalgic encephalitis, fibromyalgia, some of those things. When people have adrenal fatigue, their physiology shifts, and that physiologic shift makes us vulnerable or susceptible to some problems. So stress physiology suppresses immune, digestive, reproductive, thyroid, which then you can have problems within those systems as well. If you take adrenal fatigue kind of to the nth degree, some people will be chronically fatigued enough to reach the CDC criteria for chronic fatigue syndrome, which is pretty much a useless diagnosis unless you're using it for insurance, because it doesn't tell anything. There's still so much mystery with regard to that. But again, I've never seen somebody diagnosed with chronic fatigue that didn't have adrenal fatigue underneath it. And not uncommonly, it's the main underlying cause. Now, I know there's a straw that breaks the camel's back. That's what happens with all these conditions, right? The bucket's filling up, this stress bucket I refer to, and we have some symptoms. Always in my patients with chronic fatigue, they've got pre-existing adrenal problems. They didn't know they were adrenal problems. Their doctors were chasing after the symptoms. They were chasing after these secondary dysfunctions. And then there's the straw that breaks the camel's back. And that gets distracting for everybody, for patients and for providers. Could be COVID, right? Bucket's full, all of a sudden there's COVID. What's so special about COVID? Like, why did this person develop long COVID and this person didn't? Pre-existing dysfunction. Same thing happened to me with Epstein-Barr. A lot of patients, it was ever since that Epstein-Barr, but it could have been ever since the accident, toxic exposure, mold exposure, Lyme, whatever. These are often the straw that breaks the camel's back, and that's distracting. We chase after all that stuff, but those are secondary problems. Tip of the iceberg stuff. The iceberg's been building usually for decades with this thing. So, if you got a diagnosis of chronic fatigue, you got to go to you got to check the adrenals, because unless the adrenals are balanced out, your whole physiology isn't going to be balanced out, right? Because the name adrenal fatigue it's a terrible name for this condition. Admittedly, I don't like it, but it's what we're stuck with. What this really is a broken stress response system. And that stress response system is much more than just the adrenals. It's all the hormones in that cascade. It's the nerves on the other side, and then it's the limbic system calling the shots. That whole system controls your entire physiology. This is the crux of the problem that providers don't get. It controls your immune system. It controls your gut. It controls your hormones. It controls your thyroid. So, underlying cause, adrenal fatigue, it's all fixable. We can fix it. It's incremental and we can fix it. We just got to put this puzzle together. Okay. So if you're still confused, reach out if you can. Karen says, adrenal fatigue related to mast cell activation syndrome. Oh, we love creating these diagnoses, don't we? Mast cell activation syndrome is a histamine problem, right? Histamine is released from mast cells and some other cells in the body when we have allergy, right? Basically, that's what it is, allergy. So why are these mast cells releasing all this histamine? What the heck is going on, right? Well, your immune system's out of balance. Reasonable, right? So you take a bunch of antihistamines, fine, right? Or you could fix the immune system imbalance. Well, how do you fix, ask one more why, right? This is one of the things I work with patients. One more why. Why is my immune system out of balance? Well, what controls your immune system? It's the same stress physiology. We know specifically that what stress hormone does to the immune system, it causes this very predictable, very well-researched Th1 to Th2 shift. T helper cells, I talk about this on YouTube, so you can check that out. Th2 increases antibody production, including histamine. So yeah, you can do a low histamine diet, you can do antihistamines and things like that, but you're gonna have to do that forever because you're not fixing the underlying problem. And this underlying problem is going to cause more dysfunctions than just histamine issues. So it's 100% connected. Okay, Nancy says, yes, my recovery has slowed down. The heat of summer has exhausted. What can help? Thank you for all you're doing. Well, you're welcome, Nancy. Okay, so yes, my recovery has slowed down. So when people heal from this, and this is important, right? When people heal, if we graph the healing process, it's kind of up and out, right? Some people heal faster, some heal slower, but it's not linear. It's up and down, up and down. So you'll get these ups and downs. That's okay. Don't freak out. The hard part is when we get these dips, Some people call them crashes. Sometimes they are crashes. The scary part is they feel like all those symptoms in the beginning came back, but it's not, right? Because you have been recovering, and you know the body knows what to do to recover. You know what to do, so you double down, you tighten the reins, you kind of get all your ducks in a row and tackle it again, and you'll come out of it. Now, with regard to the heat is horrible for anybody with adrenal problems because the adrenals control your blood volume through a hormone called aldosterone. Aldosterone helps you to hold on to salt, and in the body, water follows salt. So if you can't hold on to salt, you can't hold on to water. Blood volume is mostly water, low blood volume. Now, what happens when you get hot? When you get hot, your body it vasodilates. It sends the blood to the periphery so you can cool it off, get it out of the core, out of the brain, unfortunately, and we feel miserable. Anybody with adrenal problems is at an increased risk for heat exhaustion. So one of the big things we do with the vast majority of the patients is give them salt. Salt gets a bad rap. Gets a bad rap in society. Sodium is one of the most basic minerals, sodium, salt, right? Most basic minerals in the body. It's essential for every functional cell, tissue, and organ. Essential. We have to have it. You don't want too much, of course, but so unrefined sea salt on food, in water, and usually the symptoms we can pay attention to, which are clues, frequent urination, because we can't hold on to water, so we pee it out, or lightheadedness, right? Especially if we stand up too quick. That's an indicator of more salt. But deeper than that, it's an indicator of adrenal fatigue. And adrenal fatigue, it's bigger. It's not just a problem with your adrenals. This is the point I try to get across. Even providers, right? There are doctors out there, functional medicine doctors, naturopaths and things, and they'll say, oh yeah, adrenal fatigue. And they might test for it. They believe in it. But when they find it, invariably what I find is that they just grabbed hold of a tail of something that's way bigger than they anticipated because they didn't think about the autonomic nervous system, which is connected to the stress response system. They didn't think about the limbic system, right? We're all busy chasing after the symptoms of stress physiology. Well, it's my anxiety, or it's my depression, or it's my chronic pain. It's my, you know what I mean? Or they're chasing after these secondary dysfunctions. Got to focus on this underlying cause. Okay. Good luck, Nancy. Anna. Okay. There's a lot here. So Hashimoto's, postmenopausal, Dutch test, high cortisol, metabolized cortisol. Right. Testing. Yeah. It's not adrenal insufficiency, but rather dysregulation of cortisol metabolism. It always is. It's almost never adrenal insufficiency. Adrenal insufficiency is that's a medical term reserved for them. There's Addison's disease, complete failure. Just short of that is officially adrenal insufficiency. And then we have this adrenal fatigue thing. The misunderstanding is what adrenal fatigue is. It's always cortisol dysregulation. It's always the HPA axis, right? It doesn't exist in a vacuum. And not only is it those hormones, but it's also the nervous system. It's also the limbic system in the brain. This is what's missed all the time. Okay, so how necessary is to have cortisol saliva test for treatment if most likely cortisol is high? I don't know. Testing's testing. I just want testing. Blood work. I'm not a big fan of blood testing. I prefer to get the free cortisol levels. What would you recommend as treatment? Yeah, well, treatment is everything, right? Like it's like, what do I take to fix this dysregulated cortisol metabolism? Well, so the adrenals are the end organ of this entire stress response physiology, right? The limbic system perceives a stress, triggers the HPA axis, dumps some cortisol, dumps some adrenaline. Same time, the limbic system perceives some stress, triggers the autonomic nervous system, tells the organs to get ready for fight or flight. One of those wires, one of those nerves goes to the adrenals, dump a bunch of adrenaline. The adrenals are the end result. Right. So if you have dysregulated cortisol metabolism, you've got all of this as well. And there's no quick fix for this. There is a fix. I mean, every day we're working on this stuff. Right. I just got off the phone this morning with a woman, 39 years old, chronic fatigue, chronic pain, miserable. And she was suspicious and skeptical of kind of the process and that whole thing. So 6 weeks in. And she's kind of reserved, but she was thrilled, right? That her waking up with chronic pain, right, that's been going on for years is, her words, significantly improved in 6 weeks. And she's not on any adrenal support yet. No adrenal support yet. We just had to review her test, right? And now we can do some of that work, right? What she did was the core stuff. She did my foundational work, right? Which I always start with all patients, right? With all patients. This core foundational work that all patients have to do at some point, which is the lifestyle modifications and paying attention to, everything, right? How do you sleep? How do you eat? How do you, eat more in the dietary section. How do you, what's your mindset like, right? What are your stresses? What are you, what are you dealing with in life? Are you resting? Are you pacing? Are you finding balance? Do you have the tools, coping mechanisms? Like, how full is your bucket? How do we start making room in that bucket? We want to scoop stuff out. We want to poke some holes in the bucket. And then eventually we want to make that bucket bigger. All that foundational work is at the core of what I do, which is included in all the programs. But now, what's that for a segue? It is, we've revamped that whole core program, foundational stuff, which we've offered as a self-paced program, the core work that all my patients have to do. And the better they do it, the quicker they get better. We have that available self-paced on its own. And today, if you mention, till midnight, if you mention, I want to get this in the hands of as many people as possible. And if you're hesitating, don't, because this is the real work. I can recommend supplements to anything. That's anybody. That's the easy part. This core work, that's where the work is. That's where most of my work is. My team, my coaches, working with patients to help guide them through that. But we have revamped core so that it is self-paced. $297 for all of it. All the work I've done over the past 25 years, all the guidance I've given patients with regard to lifestyle, diet, finding balance, the tools, the methods, the concepts, all that is there. And $50 off. $50 off. Mention you heard it on this live. $50 off. Start now. This is the work. This is the work, because without this work, none of the other stuff works. None of the other stuff works. Consistently. That's the key. Okay. Carla says, what does exercise look like during the healing journey? Oh, good question. So what does exercise look during? All right. So exercise is a stress on the body. It's a good stress, right? It's a good stress. You want to stress the muscles, stress the heart. They break down, they build back stronger, endurance, stamina, the whole thing. But what if someone's bucket's full and there's no room for any stress, right? Because all stress goes into the same bucket. And again, there are a lot of important points. This is an important point. We only have one stress response system. Limbic system, hormones, nerves. It's got to deal with any and all stress: physical, mental, emotional, toxic, infectious, environmental, chemical, traffic, relationships, death in the family, a move, a car accident, whatever, all in the same bucket, right? Exercise. So if the bucket is full and there's no room, even a good stress can be potentially problematic. So we have to be cautious. With many of my patients, I tell them, the more you exercise right now, the slower your healing will be, at least in the beginning. And that's hard for me. I'm a proponent of exercise in a big way, but not if there's not enough space in that bucket. And you know if there's not enough space, if you feel worse after exercise, right? Don't push. If you have a dip after exercise, don't push it. So when I do introduce exercise, I go super slow, which is hard, right? Because if you're like me, I grew up near the beach in New Jersey. And if you put me on a volleyball court, my mind goes back to when I was 20 and I'll overdo it. Chances are, right? So our minds go back to, well, I used to be able to do this. I'll just do a little less. No, do a lot less. Start real slow, incremental, stay under the radar of the body and listen to your body. Your body will never lie. Your mind, lie at the drop of a hat. right? We can rationalize and justify, but it's healthy for me. I know I crashed for 3 days afterwards, but it's healthy. No, don't do that. Your body's telling you, your body's giving you information, right? That's where all these symptoms are. That's what the crashes and the dips are. They're information. We just have to be good enough detectives to figure that out. Shout out to Leah for that concept. Okay. Nita says, what do you think of hair mineral tests for accuracy of electrolytes and minerals, please, Dr. Neville? Yeah, I don't use them. I'm not really crazy about them. It's minerals in the hair. Well, in the hair, right? There's a whole lot that has to happen to that mineral to get into the hair. I don't find that it accurately represents what I need to know about. They used to do these hair mineral tests. Even Dr. Posnecker before me, he did these hair mineral tests way before we had cortisol testing, because it was like an indirect way to figure out where's the sodium, where's the potassium. Let's try to figure that out. Now that we have more direct testing, I just do those tests. I mean, you can get toxic metals and things like that, although urine's probably a little better. But I don't find these tests to be accurate for those mineral issues. For example, I had a woman who had this mineral test. She thought she was low in potassium. I'm like, okay, that's a mineral test. Let's do a test in the blood work. Now, blood work has too broad of a range, but if you read between the lines, because I've seen so many of these tests, like her potassium's fine, right? Her potassium's fine. There's a metabolic issue there. That's what we have to deal with. You don't want to go taking things, to me, you don't want to go taking things based on those tests. So. Okay, Jen says, I could be so tired all day into the night, then can't sleep. I don't understand. I'm tired. I want to sleep, but sometimes it's so difficult. Whew. That is a hallmark of adrenal fatigue, also chronic fatigue, right? Which is just a more extreme version. People are exhausted, but they can't sleep. How's the irony in that? Brutal, but incredibly common. So there's lots of reasons. One of the main ones, cortisol. So the reason we do salivary cortisol tests, or you can do a urine test, is cortisol determines your circadian rhythm. Nice and high in the morning, gradually goes down, low in the evening. So the morning is high, gets you animated, ready to tackle your day. Evening is low, let you go to sleep. That's never the case if you've overworked this system. Most common pattern is a shift. Low in the morning, too high in the evening, can't get going, can't sleep. I mean, it's as simple as that, oftentimes. There's more to it. It is more complex. That's what you have to fix. So I have a symptom assessment tool on my website, 4 or 5 minute test. And it'll ask you a bunch of different questions, not just about this sleep thing, but a bunch of different questions that'll spit out the likelihood that you have adrenal issues. You can check that out. But I would tell you, Jen, that what you just described, I don't know any other condition that causes that. So stick around. Stick around, listen, grab core, talk to my patient coordinator, leave a comment, whatever. But stick around. Go to Facebook group. Facebook group is a great place. Healing Adrenal Fatigue Holistically. It's a great supportive place. Okay, Carl says, can iodine deficiency cause problems with the thyroid? I've had adrenal fatigue for years. One thing that happens when I'm stressed, sore throat, hoarse voice, coughing attacks, like something stuck in my throat. Could that be thyroid? Could be, but I don't know. Doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be, because when you're stressed, you can also release like latent viruses, like Epstein-Barr. Like that sounds really similar to when I used to get Epstein-Barr all the time. You know, in between semesters in med school, you know, I'd crash out. I'd have the sore throat, hoarse voice. I'd have, you know, gunk in my throat, all that stuff. It was my Epstein-Barr flaring. Could it be iodine deficiency? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it happens. It happens. I mean, taking a little iodine's okay, but I don't chase after thyroid issues until I'm very sure, very certain that the adrenals are taken care of. Because if the thyroid's like the engine of your body, your adrenals are like the oil and gas. And if you go cranking up somebody's engine and you haven't paid any attention to the oil and gas, yeah, you're going to have some problems. You're going to have some problems. So we got to fill up the tank first. Stress physiology. This is something I didn't learn in med school. Stress physiology, cortisol, goes to your hypothalamic pituitary thyroid hormone axis and suppresses it. Again, the research is there. We know this is true if people were to pay attention to the research. Number one cause of low thyroid in this country is adrenal fatigue. Okay. Debbie says, what are your thoughts on the accuracy of DHEA levels in blood? I think I'm already taking adrenal cortex, so saliva test would not work. Thanks so much. Okay. So if I've got people on adrenal support, all I need to do is get them off that adrenal support for 3 days and I can get an accurate test. And I do say I can't tell you how many adrenal tests that I've seen misassessed or assessed poorly. Yes, that's a new word, misassessed, assessed poorly by providers not knowing kind of the ins and outs of this stuff. Give me 3 days, I can look at that test. Because even sometimes those levels look like they're in the normal range, but there are subtle clues that there are bigger problems. DHEA is really the tell. So the DHEA is that other adrenal hormone, incredibly important, pound for pound, the most abundant hormone in the body, but it's still mysterious. It's still mysterious. There's no DHEA receptors, although low DHEA is connected to just about every chronic disease you can think of. When you do DHEA in the blood, they get a DHEA sulfate value. And with hormones are either free or they're bound to a protein, sulfate, or albumin or some other protein. They're bound, right? Free or bound. Well, the free hormone is the active hormone. So I want to get a piece of that free hormone, right? Because you might have a bunch of DHEA or adequate DHEA, but if not enough of it's free, that's a problem. And we might miss that in the blood test. So I prefer saliva or urine. Okay. Kelly says, I gotta clean my glasses. Kelly says, could you discuss the link between chronic bladder inflammation and adrenal fatigue? Thank you very much. Okay. So I told you it was going to be rapid fire. Cortisol does lots of wonderful things in the body. It elevates our blood sugar, right? Just in case we missed a meal and so we don't pass out. Or it'll elevate your blood sugar in case there's a lion in front of you and you have to run or fight, right? It controls inflammation. Cortisol is our number one anti-inflammatory, right? All these steroids, Flonase, prednisone, dexamethasone, Medrol packs, inhalers, all those steroids, they're mimics of cortisol. So if you have a cortisol problem, you're going to develop a problem that your doctors are going to want to give steroids for, anti-inflammatories for. So these are all itises, right? Itises. Arthritis, uveitis, bursitis. It could be gastritis. You name it. Myositis, right? Inflammation of the muscles. What cortisol also does is it damages the mucosal membrane lining called mucin everywhere. So respiratory mucosa, GI mucosa, genitourinary mucosa. Damage that mucosa. Now that tissue is going to be more vulnerable, irritable. So my patients have irritable bowel syndrome. They get this diagnosis, which again is a result of this adrenal problem. They also develop irritable bladder syndrome. So to me, that's the connection. Fixable. This is what I want to emphasize. I know I paint this picture like, holy cow, it's connected to everything. Like, no, it's all fixable. You just have to do it in a comprehensive way. Chances are, right, if you're here, you're still struggling, things are still mysterious. Chances are your doctors are chasing after your symptoms. What are the symptoms of stress physiology? Documented. Fatigue, pain, insomnia, brain fog, weight gain, anxiety, depression, blood sugar, blood pressure problems. So they give you a POTS diagnosis. They give you it's all adrenal stuff. And at the same time, so they'll chase after those things, or they'll chase after these secondary problems. The immune issues, the digestive issues, the reproductive hormone issues, the thyroid hormone issues. Oh, you have mitochondrial dysfunction. Well, no duh, you have mitochondrial dysfunction. Yeah, of course, that's where the fatigue comes from. But you can't fix the mitochondria if you're still damaging it from stress hormone, right? You're trying to bail a boat that, you didn't fix the holes. Let's fix the holes. Then you bail the boat and it'll be actually effective. So chances are we're chasing infections, right? We're chasing mast cell, histamine stuff, food allergies, mold, candida, Lyme. It's your IBS. It's your gut. It's the SIBO. It's menopause. Yeah, it's PMS. It's your hormones. You have estrogen dominance. Why? Ask why. And if your doctor doesn't want to think about why, time to find a new doctor. Okay. Mohammed. Do patients often feel worse before they feel better because the body's burning off excess adrenaline after a long period of chronic stress? Pardon me. And using supplements that calm the body during this process interfere or delay with the natural healing process. Okay, so many of my patients come into me, they're wired and tired, right? The wired part is often too much cortisol, too much adrenaline. And the tired part is just because we've been running from tigers for decades, which is tiring. Yeah, it's exhausting. So stop running. Okay, so if they're wired and tired, now what I've learned in almost 25 years of doing this is that we've got to deal with the wired part first. We've got to calm people down first before we can effectively support them. So if you're wired and tired and we just fix the wired part, you're going to just be tired. So I will always accept, on behalf of my patients, I will accept the fatigue as long as somebody's calmer and they're less wired. Yes, you cut off the adrenaline, right? My job is to make that tired part tolerable, right? Now we can do the support. So there's a method, there's a process to correctly fixing this. But yes, it's possible. If you consider, I don't consider that worse anymore. I consider that progress, and I help to educate patients that way. Calmer is always better. I'll leave you with that one, Mom. Okay. Evangeline says, I just realized I'm almost a year in. I was 10%, and now I'm at 60, 70, 80%. Doing core, by the way, core, foundational stuff, just like that woman, right? Just like a woman I just talked to, foundational stuff, 6 weeks. My chronic pain is significantly better, noticing some energy, calmer. So Evangeline did core, 10% functionality to 60, 70, 80% in a year. Now imagine what that looks like, what that could look like. And there's no adrenal support in there. There's no supplements in there, right? So how long does it take to heal all the way? Well, I did the basic core, loved it. Thanks for all your help. Your team is amazing, so kind. I couldn't agree more. I am blessed with the team that I have. So just so you know, the coaches that I have, my team that I refer to, who I love, I do. Most of them have been patients. They've been through my previous program, right? But they also have previous coaching and nutrition training. And I saw something in them that I want you to hold on to them so that they could join our team. And once they did, I put them through my own adrenal health coach training program. They know more about adrenal fatigue than any doctor you can see. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. They've been around it so much. They've lived it just like I have. So how long does it take to heal all the way? Oh, that varies. That varies. 6 to 12 months to get people back on their feet most of the time. 12 to 24 maybe to get people where you can kind of forget that you have this condition. It depends. And the way we speed it up is we just target better, right? So core is awesome. I couldn't be more proud of what core is. Right. So just so you know, like I was called a YouTube doctor the other day. I'm like, I'm not a YouTube doctor. At least, I don't know, maybe for the past 6, 7, 8 years I have been. I'm in a clinic, right? This is real. This is not, I could take a book off the shelf. I have a guest house on our property here where patients used to come and stay with us a couple weeks, couple months from all over the world to fix this thing. And they would do well, right? They'd be in my office every day for, a couple months, like no stone left unturned, right? But I had people in front of me, suffering patients in front of me that I had to deal with, right? That I learned from, right? That they learned from me. Now they did well. The problem is most people don't have the resources to come and get that level of care. And I don't like it. I want everybody to be able to get care, right? So that's why I started creating the programs, right? We have a healing transformation program. That's with me. It's 6 months. There's a bit of a step down program, still effective with my coaches for 3 months. But even that's a lot of effort, right? It includes testing. Testing speed things up. I guess I should answer your question, Evangeline. Testing speed things up. Test, know where things are. We can target more specifically. There's testing in both of those programs. But now there's core, right? And what Evangeline's done is just to use that core program, right? Self-paced, do it yourself. And that has gotten her from 10% to split the difference, 70%. It's awesome. So it takes a little time. If you need more guidance, we're here. Reach out. Oh, And I'm supposed to say, if you buy core, and again, this is today because there's a progress review. So I do have a little limited space. One of my coaches does a progress review. So it's self-paced. There's no real contact except for this one contact. So I've got to limit that. $50 off, $50 off till midnight today. Anonymous. How can I break my stress response, high cortisol levels, high nighttime blood sugars? Not seeking medical advice. I have a fantastic doctor. Well, that's awesome. We all should have fantastic doctors. They're few and far between, unfortunately. Okay. High nighttime cortisol, low O2. I stopped intermittent fasting. Good. Protein snack before bed. Not just protein and fat. The body's going to burn carbs, then fat, then protein, but only protein if you're starving, right? So animal protein generally has fat in it, so you want protein and fat. Stop bedtime stack, no change. Measured blood sugars. Blood sugars consistently rise with dinner. Yeah, so one of the most common patterns, just from a broken stress response system, right? One of the most common patterns is high cortisol at night. I was talking about that earlier, right? So again, this condition is not just an adrenal problem. I'm glad you have a fantastic doctor, but I've seen very smart doctors, fantastic doctors, smarter than me, not get this conceptual issue. The whole HPA axis, the limbic system that's constantly triggering it. So there's missing pieces of your therapeutic puzzle, chances are somewhere else, or at least somewhere higher up within that stress response physiology. That's my guess. Okay. Caroline. Can you talk about the link between adrenal fatigue and chronic pain? Sure. So, I'm doing well. Okay. My team's giving me information about the time. Okay. Adrenal fatigue and pain. Okay, so the first one I already spoke about, right? Cortisol is your main anti-inflammatory. If you've got a cortisol problem, you've got an inflammatory problem, and inflammation hurts. Number one. The second one, which is almost more important than that one, has to do with the limbic system and a process called central sensitization. So central stands for central nervous system. Central sensitization is a trigger-happy central nervous system that overperceives stimuli. In the limbic system's job is to perceive your environment, looking for danger, right? Here's a stimulus. Is this harmful, dangerous? Can this thing kill me? Do I got to jump this body into fight or flight, hormones, nerves? Or is it harmless and innocuous and I can just chill out in vacation mode and let it pass? With a bit of a genetic predisposition and just enough chronic stress to overwhelm those genetics, that limbic system gets trigger happy, starts over-perceiving its environment as dangerous, right? It is sensitized. Now we fill up the bucket even faster, right? We make mountains out of molehills, right? Minor stresses don't generate minor responses, right? Okay. That sensitization also happens in the sensory nerves. So many times my patients will come into me and they're like, Doc, I'm sensitive to bright lights now and loud sounds, harsh chemicals and smells, even touch. You can touch one of my patients and their limbic system registers pain, which, by the way, is fibromyalgia. So what is fibromyalgia? 11 out of 18 tender points with 4 pounds of pressure per square inch elicits pain. What does that mean? Who cares, right? It just means that when you're pushing on these tender points, which are generally the tendinous insertions into the bone, which receive the most stress, right? This muscle has to move this bone. Most of the tension is there. Press that, it hurts. Yeah, and it hurts more in patients with this problem. Lots of reasons for pain. Lots. Those are just a couple. Okay. So Shannon says, are heart palpitations part of adrenal fatigue symptoms? What causes them? They're bad at times. They will lessen, but then they're bad again. How do I prevent heart palpitations? All right. So again, this is going to go back, Shannon, to the darn name of this condition, which we don't have. We call it adrenal fatigue, but what it is is a broken stress response system, which is limbic system in the brain, hormones, nerves. Palpitations are partially from the autonomic nervous system. So the nerve part of the stress response is the autonomic nervous system. Again, if you missed something that I said, you're like, what is he talking about? Go to my YouTube channel. I talk about all this stuff. Autonomic nervous system. 2 wires from the brain, nerves from the brain going to every organ. One is a fight or flight wire. One is a rest and digest wire, right? So let's go to the heart. Fight or flight wire, speed up the heart, right? There's a tiger, right? If you turn on that wire, if you turn off that wire, you turn on the other wire, it's rest and digest, going to slow down the heart. So palpitations are going to be directly wired to the heart from the nervous system, and also you're going to dump adrenaline into that system as well. Very common symptom, but there's no quick fix, but there is a fix. It's doing all this stuff that I just kind of threw at you. I apologize. Fixing the broken stress response system. It's just trigger happy. That's the problem. That's the problem. It's trigger happy. I mean, I'll tell you, it starts with core. It starts with core. Again, this young woman earlier, already calming, 6 weeks, no adrenal support, none of that other stuff. I mean, she's in a program, right? So we're giving some personalized guidance. Yes, I'm using supplements that we can't offer in core, but it's the basics are the most important things. And she recognizes that. I mean, she shared that with me. So you can fix it. So hang in there. Okay, Kadra, why don't you prescribe adaptogens? Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know, adaptogens are herbs that are supposed to help adrenal issues, help us adapt, right? Modulate our stress response. Ginseng, rhodiola, ashwagandha, Romania, eleutherococcus. I mean, there's a ton of them. I studied herbal medicine, naturopathic medical school. I figured I'm going to treat adrenal patients. I'm going to use a ton of these adaptogens. The only reason I don't really use them all the time, very much at all, is because what I found was that more often than not, they actually overstimulated people. And I've seen that. I can't even tell you how many patients will come into me and report that. And in fact, I kind of know, like they're like, oh yeah, my naturopath put me on rhodiola or whatever. And I didn't really tolerate it. It messed with my sleep. I'm like, I know, which tells me like they don't know what they're doing, right? Because that's what the books always say, right? And you go to anybody who talks about adrenal fatigue, and there's so many articles, there's so much misinformation out there about adrenal fatigue. Oh, just take ashwagandha, just take rhodiola, No, they don't fix anything, right? Here and there, I'll have a patient successfully use it and it might calm them down. It's supposed to modulate. It might calm them down, but that's why. That's why. It's just experience, I guess. Like that's what you're getting. When you work with me or when you listen to me, you're just getting me doing this thousands and thousands of times. Like those people that write those articles, most of them never even seen a patient. Stuff gets really different when you've got a suffering patient in front of you, right? You can read an article and take an adaptogen, and if you react, who cares? You're not going to go chase after that author. But if I gave somebody to something and they reacted adversely, there's consequences for that. Like we got to have that conversation. So I learned pretty quickly what not to do. That's just one of them. Okay, Shirley says, can someone fully recover from adrenal fatigue, or is it something they always have to tend to be aware of? No, you can fully recover. You can fully recover. My patients will incrementally regain their functional capacity. But during the process and in our programs and in core, I teach them balance. They learn how to live. They learn the concepts that we're moving forward with. The idea being we can't live a life where our bucket's full. It's when we overfill our bucket or we max out our bucket, that's when you will see symptoms. And you can max out your bucket 30, 40%. It's going to take less to max out your bucket. But now you're at 60, 70, 80, 90%. You can still max out the bucket if you haven't learned the lessons as to why you got there. Now, all of us fill up our bucket in a variety of ways. And that's what we talk about in the core, in the base, the foundation of what we do. I mean, those are the discussions that we have, whether it's in person or if it's in those core modules. So Yeah, you can heal. You can heal. Marinella says, how do I heal chronic fatigue syndrome that was triggered by Epstein-Barr virus? How can I test for neuroinflammation in the brain? Don't. To prove that I have chronic fatigue syndrome. Yeah. So Marinella, you're probably going to want to talk to my patient coordinators. Complimentary call, just have a conversation with them. So chronic fatigue syndrome, right, is adrenal fatigue to the nth degree. Epstein-Barr, don't chase it. Don't chase it. Epstein-Barr for you is just the tip of the iceberg. If you look back through your history and you look at how I describe adrenal fatigue, the symptoms that come from that, I can guarantee that you had that this bucket was filling up over time and that Epstein-Barr was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And here's how you want to think about Epstein-Barr. 95% of the country will test positive for having Epstein-Barr in the past. A third of those people didn't even know they had it. A third of those people got a respiratory infection, still didn't know they had it. And another third of those people got mono, right? More severe infection. Epstein-Barr is a herpes family virus, never leaves the body. The body makes it go dormant. The immune system does, as long as the immune system's strong. Well, what weakens the immune system and makes Epstein-Barr reactivate? Stress physiology. Don't go chasing after the neuroinflammation. There's no test for chronic fatigue syndrome. It's a clinical diagnosis. They rule out every other possible problem, and they're like, oh, must be chronic fatigue syndrome. What do I do about it, doc? Oh, we don't know why it's there. We don't know any answer. Well, they don't. We do. So try not to go chasing after that stuff. And if that's confusing, just reach out and have a conversation. Christine is my patient coordinator. She is one of the most compassionate people. And she's been doing this for years. She's been with me for almost 10 years. Beautiful. Okay. Muslima K, sorry. I get dizzy while I'm already standing, feel sluggish, food sensitivities. How do I deal with that? Can we heal with the 297 program? Yes. You just heard that woman earlier. Hopefully you're still listening. 10%, I forget, under a year, 10%, 60, 70, 80%. Do I need to get a saliva test? Yeah, that speeds things up, right? But if all you can do is core, start there, right? Start there. So I'm not saying core is better than working one-on-one with my coaches, right? Or in the more complicated cases, generally working one-on-one with me. Those programs are more comprehensive. They're more personalized. Of course, they include testing and guidance with regard to supplements, right? And supplements are helpful, but supplements are just that. They're supplemental to core. So core is key, right? Core is key. Also, I did 24-hour urine test check for Addisons through my conventional doc. Can this tell us the optimum results? No. That'll rule out Addisons. This is what they do. This is what conventional medicine does. If I can rule out Addisons, which is complete adrenal failure, which occurs in 3 to 5 people out of 500,000 or something. It's a ridiculously low percentage. Does it exist? Of course it does. Incredibly rare. They're going to rule that out and say, your adrenals are fine. It's ridiculous. So unfortunately, no, the 24 hours not gonna guide you, unfortunately. So reach out, learn more, stick around, reach out if you have any more questions. Okay, Shade Viking. Yes, I drink Gatorade. Not sure if it's good or bad for adrenal fatigue. All right. So Gatorade is electrolytes, right? Basically, that's what Gatorade is, electrolytes. Now, what are your electrolytes? Your main 2 electrolytes, sodium, potassium. What controls sodium and potassium in the body? Your adrenals and one of the adrenal hormones called aldosterone. If the adrenals are off, the aldosterone will be off, your electrolytes will be off, and we do have to do something about that until we fix the problem, and now your adrenals can manage that stuff, right? There are better options than Gatorade. Shade Viking. I'm not sure if that's your real name, but I'll go with it. Mr. or Mrs. Viking. So the reason I'm not thrilled about it, Gatorade in a pinch is fine. I've told patients that, right? If you need something, grab a Gatorade. So the problem with Gatorade, sugar, which you don't need in there, weird food colorings, which are always toxic, and the sodium levels are weak. The sodium levels are weak. So not enough sodium. And that's the big thing. The big thing we need is the sodium. So there is, so I use salt, right? I use salt. I have patients, salt. This is in, like, if you went to the Facebook group in the Healing Adrenal Fatigue Holistically, there are some guides or primers on some of the basic stuff that talks about this. I'm guaranteed there's one on salt, which will talk about this. So our patients want to salt their food and then put a little salt in. That's all you need, salt. You need sodium. Put some salt in water and, that'll do it, right? That's your healthy Gatorade. The only, I've looked for a reasonable electrolyte drink that fits the ratios of sodium to potassium that most of my patients need. For 20 years, I've been looking for one. The closest I've gotten is something called Element, LMNT. They got a bunch of different flavors. It's basically sodium, potassium, magnesium, magnesium. But it's much more sodium. It's much more sodium. So that's the closest I've gotten. If you need a drink, come in little packets. They're great to travel with. So that would be my recommendation. Okay, Sarah says, I've used a lot of words this hour. My mouth is dry. I've read that the thing that can take the longest to heal is well-being. Is that true? My symptoms have let up a bit, but I rarely have the feeling yet that it's just good to be alive. I'm plodding. Whew. Okay. Anybody out there, raise your hand if you can identify with that statement. Yeah. So, well-being. Things that take the longest. Well, I don't know about longest, right? For you to have the feeling of well-being consistently on a daily basis, on a regular basis, maybe. And I neglected to say, like, thanks for showing up, and let us know where you're from. We're always curious to kind of know where people are calling or looking in from. So just let us know. Let us know who you are. And if you have a question, throw it down. I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. I'm trying to get through. So healing from adrenal fatigue is so strange. I was saying earlier that the healing is like, if we plotted it, it's up and out. And some people are faster, some are slower, but it's not linear. There's these ups and downs, right? But as we shift this physiology, what we should see is that the symptoms that come from stress physiology should decrease incrementally in intensity, frequency, and duration. And what does that mean? That means, are my patient's symptoms gone in 6 weeks? No, they're still there. What about 12 weeks? No, they're still there. They'll go away eventually. But what I want to see is that they're decreasing in intensity, frequency, and duration. And now I know this physiology is shifting. Then, as we turn off the wear and tear that comes from stress physiology and we turn on the healing and repair side, you should feel a little more like yourself with increased intensity, frequency, and duration. Maybe it's cognitive function. Maybe it's mood. Energy, of course. But as that comes, it starts to come in glimpses. And then glimpses turn into moments, and moments turn into minutes, and then minutes turn into an hour, and then it's gone, right? Then it's gone, and maybe you're not garbage, but you're like, all right, I did feel a little better there, but now I'm back here, right? But then you have a couple hours a week, and then you have a couple hours a day, and then you have a day out of the week, and then you have a couple days, and then you have a couple weeks out of the month, right? It builds incrementally. Right? That's what you want to look out for. That's what healing is. And that's essentially what we do. Like with our programs, I'm always checking in with patients, right? My program's 6 months. I have 4 kind of one-on-one visits. And I'm always trying to look at the core stuff that I've talked about, right? The core. How are my patients doing with the core? Are we missing anything there? Do we have to strengthen any of those pieces? And then how do we expedite the process, right? Because incrementally, my patients get better. Incrementally. As long as we're calming first, supporting second, they will get better. Okay, how do we speed that up? That's what I'm always looking for. And that often takes guidance, right? And if you need guidance, reach out. I'm really not sure why adrenal fatigue, why this condition is like something that everybody's like, oh, it's just a DIY thing. I can learn how to fix it on the forums, or I can just go to YouTube and learn how to fix it. Like this thing's complex, right? It's complex. There are basics that we provide, right? that we provide as far as information goes. My YouTube channel is fine. Will it fix people? I mean, it'll help. It'll get you started. Core program? Absolutely, because it's crucial, right? But once we get beyond that, you're looking at the hormones in your body, and those adrenal hormones then suppressing ovarian hormones, right? And thyroid hormones. So that's all screwed up. You're also looking at the nervous system, right? The autonomic nervous system, which controls every organ in your body. Now they're screwed up, and that gets confusing. And the puppet master is this limbic system in the brain, which is challenged as far as, what we have to go after and how we fix that and how we balance that, how we rewire that, right? That affects the immune system, which then affects the hormone. There's complexity here. It's okay to need help. It's okay to need guidance. Reach out. One of the key things I talk about in the core program and with patients is ask for help, or at least accept help if it's offered, but ask for help if it's not. It's okay. So keep plotting, Sarah. Okay. Leela says, why does even talking to someone, going to market, or showering feel like a mountainous task? What's the reason for this? Yeah. So earlier, Leela, I said limbic system gets trigger happy. We make mountains out of molehills, right? So one of the worst things my patients can do is walk into a big box store, right? You go to a big box store, your sensitized central nervous system is trigger happy right now. There's so many lights, fluorescent lights, and weird smells with new stuff and tons of people and busyness and loud noise and all that stuff, the annoying loudspeaker thing. It's an onslaught to our delicate nervous system, right? So we're overwhelmed. Eventually that quiets down and you can desensitize that system. The other parts are basically energy, right? So it's very common for my patients to, okay, I took a shower, now I got to lay down. Okay, now I can dry my hair, now I got to lay down again, right? Not me, other patients with hair. Now I can, make breakfast, I lie down. I eat breakfast, I lie down. So it's very common, and it's just energy compromise has to do with mitochondrial function, which we fix in the programs. Okay, unsure of the name. Is POTS linked to the adrenals? I'm seeing simple symptoms like palpitations, poor circulation, limbs stand, could be connected. Yeah. So, I mentioned it earlier, very briefly. POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, autonomic. It's a dysautonomia, right? It's a problem with the autonomic nervous system and the body's response, basically to standing or to standing up too quickly. There are these tests that we would do with, patients in the office, orthostatic intolerance test, lie them down, then stand them up, measure their blood pressure, measure their heart rate. And that's where they come up with POTS. Ask why. So if you're diagnosed with POTS, why am I diagnosed with POTS? What is it? Why is my autonomic nervous system misbehaving? It's misbehaving because it's been overused, it's weakened, it's connected to distress physiology. That's what you have to fix. You can fix it. You can absolutely fix it, right? But you have to target the why. Always ask one more why. That's the biggest thing. One more why. Okay. I actually got through all the questions. I think I did, although my team's selective. They protect me. So here's my final thought. If something that I talked about, brings you clarity, right? Opens your eyes, or if you had a light bulb moment or something like that, right? If it resonated, I didn't get to all the questions. They always remind me. If something resonated today, then what you're likely dealing with is adrenal fatigue. With adrenal fatigue, this is what the quiz does. With adrenal fatigue, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Now, I'm going to use another animal analogy. One of the biggest problems with all the other doctors out there and all the moderators on the darn forums is it's like the parable, right? 3 blind men standing around an elephant, one at the tail, one at the trunk, one at the ear. They're all describing exquisitely what they see, but nobody's able to unblind them and say, yo, It's just an elephant. That is what adrenal fatigue is. It is literally the elephant in the room. No, it's my anxiety. Why? Why do you have anxiety? It's adrenaline. Why do you have adrenaline? Because you have adrenal problems. No, it's my depression. Why do you have depression? Because stress hormone damages the brain and causes depression. We know that in all kinds of mammals and rats. Why do you have chronic fatigue? Why is my immune system? Why am I Epstein-Barr? Why am I Lyme? Why am I menopausal symptoms even? Adrenal fatigue. Look at my YouTube channel. You can go and do all the research that I've done. And I do continuous research. I'm weird that way. It's one of those things that actually brings me joy to learn more and to connect these dots for myself, but also for you, right? Also for other patients. So if you're dealing with a duck or an elephant, if you're dealing with adrenal fatigue, stick around, learn more, get support on the Facebook channel. And if you're ready to start the basics, the foundation, core program, check out the comments, right? Check out the comments here. There are lots of different links. And if you buy core before midnight today, $50 off. $50 off to get you started. Because I know if you start, you will start to get it and you will get better. You'll be able to get better. You'll be on your way to get better. And that is my only passion in this world, is to help people like you get ahead of this stuff, incrementally get better, and then stay away from as many doctors as you can, including me. All my best, everybody. Thanks.